um, opening slide. And just so that I don't forget it, look at that. And that was pretty quick. Okay, that was not even, that might have been 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to start the recording.
Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Because we care for one another's safety, our congregation is gathering online during this long season of coronavirus pandemic. Nevertheless, through the gifts of technology, we continue to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls,
Hello, my name is Russell Feldhausen, and it is my honor to serve as the Vice President of the All Souls Board of Trustees. I'm here today to share information with you about the upcoming All Souls Annual Meeting. As required by Article 4 of our Constitution, we must hold an annual meeting of our society in May each year. This year's meeting will be held on Sunday, May 16th at 1 o'clock p.m. The meeting itself will be held online using Zoom, so you'll be able to attend that meeting using a computer, tablet, or smartphone, or you can even call in using a regular telephone. The information for joining on Zoom can be found on the main page of our website at allsoulskc.org. Just look for the Community Connection link on the homepage. We also plan to broadcast the annual meeting via YouTube on the same channel we use for our Sunday services, so you can watch the meeting there as well. Just look for the All Souls UU Church KC YouTube channel link on our website. The purpose of the annual meeting will be to adopt an annual budget and to elect incoming members of the Board of Trustees and various church committees. In addition, we will be voting on several items, including a request for a grant from the endowment, a resolution regarding gender-neutral language in church documents, and a related amendment to the Constitution and bylaws. To facilitate holding our annual meeting online, we have adopted a process to make sure every voting member is informed and able to cast a ballot. On Monday, May 3rd, an email will be sent to all certified voting members containing information about the meeting and how to cast your vote. If you do not receive this email, but believe you should have, please send an email to board@allsoulskc.org and we will look into it. Then, during or shortly after the annual meeting on May 16th, we will send a second email containing a link to a ballot form that you can fill out online. That ballot must be submitted online within 1 hour of the end of the annual meeting in order for it to count as a vote cast at that meeting. However, if you run into any technology issues or prefer not to use the online form, we will provide information during the meeting for how to cast your vote via phone. We will then tabulate the results and share them with you as soon as they are available. Here are some next steps you'll want to be aware of as we get closer to the annual meeting. First, the Board of Trustees met for their regular meeting on April 21st. During that meeting, we created and approved an agenda for the annual meeting and also passed an annual budget presented from the Finance Committee to be presented to the congregation for approval. Those documents will be shared via the church newsletter and on our website. Next, please watch for an email on May 3rd from board@allsoulskc.org containing information about the meeting. Again, if you don't receive that email and believe you should have, please contact us at board@allsoulskc.org and we'll look into it. Also, please take some time to review the presented agenda and budget and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Finally, make sure you mark your calendars for May 16th at 1:00 p.m. for the All Souls Annual Meeting. We hope to see you there. We hope that this process will allow everyone to attend the annual meeting and feel that their voice is heard. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email the board at board@allsoulskc.org or reach out to any board member. Thank you.
Good morning, and welcome to the online gathering of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church of Kansas City on this Mother's Day Sunday, 2021. We come together to be reminded of our highest aspirations, to be summoned once again to our better selves, and to give gratitude and praise for the good of this world. We bear witness to all struggle and suffering and hold in our hearts any who are in need of healing. We honor the interdependent web of all existence, acknowledging both our finitude and our power as one strand in that weaving. We take responsibility for the impact of our actions on other beings, on community, and on the whole of all things. We covenant with one another in the search for truth, the work of justice, and the nurture of peace. May we find in this place and hour renewal of courage, rededication of purpose, and refreshment of spirit, that together we might grow in wisdom and bring our ideals to life. Our chalice is kindled this morning. To celebrate how beautiful and complex it can be to mother and to be mothered. To those who have done this life-giving work, let us offer thanks. With those who delight in the task, the role, the presence of mothering and mothers, let us rejoice together. Let us appreciate those who are in the thick of parenting children of any age. Together with those who experience loss through infertility, abortion, miscarriage, adoption, or running away, let us share in mourning and also honor the grief of those who have lost their mothers. Let us acknowledge those who have endured abuse or suffering at the hands of their mothers and bear witness to those who experience pain at the marking of this day. Let us lift up in gratitude all who are single moms, grandmothers, stepmoms, foster moms, adoptive moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, for you all are needed. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we bless your season of anticipation. May this flame illuminate our gratitude for the wide spectrum of mothering that happens in our lives and in our communities. I invite you now to share in the chat where your chalice is lighted this morning, and if you wish, to name a mother who is in your heart today. Now let's join together in speaking once again our covenant promises to this community. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
From the book of Exodus, chapter 2. The Egyptians came to dread the Israelites who were living among them and oppressed them with hard labor. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take the baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water."
In the wisdom literature of the Buddhist tradition, the story is told. Gotami was her family name, but because she tired easily, she was called Kisa Gotami, or Frail Gotami. She was born in Savatthi in a poverty-stricken house. When she grew up, she married and went to the house of her husband's family to dwell there. Because she was the daughter of a poor family, they treated her with contempt. After a time, she gave birth to a son, and then they accorded her respect. But when that boy of hers was old enough to play and run hither and thither and about, he died. Sorrow sprang up within her, and in her grief she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. But they said to her, "Where did you ever meet with medicine for the dead?" And they laughed and clapped their hands in derision. She had not the slightest idea what they meant, and the people said, "She has lost her senses. That boy is dead." At length, Kisa Gotami met a man who replied to her request. "I cannot give you medicine for your child, but I know a physician who can." And the girl said, "Pray tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Gota Shakyamuni, the Buddha." Kisa Gotami repaired to the Buddha and cried, "Compassionate one, give me the medicine that will cure my boy." The Buddha answered, "I want a handful of mustard seed." And when the girl, in her joy, promised to procure it, the Buddha added, "The mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend." Poor Kisa Gotami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, "Here is mustard seed, take it." But when she asked, "Did a son or daughter, a father or mother die in your family?" they answered her, "Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief." And there was no house but some beloved one had died in it. Kisa Gotami became weary and hopeless, and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. At last the darkness of the night reigned everywhere, and she considered the fate of all beings, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished. And she thought to herself, "How selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all, yet in this valley of desolation there is a path that leads to the end of suffering for those who have surrendered all selfish desire." And putting away the selfishness of her affection for the child, Kisa Gotami had the dead body buried in the forest. Returning to the Buddha, she took refuge in him and found comfort in the Dharma.
Good morning, and happy Mother's Day to all of you who are mothers. I'm Barbara Griggs, and I've been a member of All Souls for nearly 22 years. My husband and I came to All Souls at a difficult time for us, as my younger sister was losing her battle with cancer and was troubled by people encouraging her to look forward to an afterlife with Jesus. She struggled with a way to tell these well-meaning people that their words didn't soothe, they hurt. And she didn't have any way to describe the difference between her beliefs and theirs. She was, as I like to say, unaware she was a you. Learning about Unitarian Universalism helped me figure out how to push back on her Christian friends so she didn't have to. She passed away on May 8th, 2000, leaving her 2 young girls without a mother. All Souls was a comfort to me then and has been here for me in so many ways ever since. Ours is a church where my Jewish and Catholic family members are welcome. When my youngest child left home, the church offered so many ways to fill the void, most especially having the opportunity to interact with so many of our wonderful children, whom I've been privileged to watch grow into amazing, compassionate men and women. It was my great joy to watch my son married from this church and become part of the church community, and to see my grandchildren blessed and welcomed here. As a mother and a grandmother, All Souls has supported me. And I was in the All Souls building the day I learned of my mother's death, and the outpouring of love and compassion steadied me. On this Mother's Day, I am grateful to all of you who make up this community. I also think about the fact that the original call for Mother's Day holiday was not, in fact, about women receiving flowers and burned toast with Fruit Loops on a tray. Julia Ward Howe first called for a Mother's Day, more of a mother's strike, in 1870, saying, "Women need no longer be made a party to proceedings which fill the globe with grief and horror." Though it was some 40 years later that a formal day to celebrate mothers began to be popularized in the U.S. In this way, too, All Souls is here for us, to support all of us, whatever our gender, in seeking to put an end to proceedings which fill the globe with grief and horror. All Souls is here to reinforce and amplify the commitments of each of us to greater justice and equality in the world around us. We've all been walking through fire this past year, and throughout, All Souls has been here for us. So today, on this Mother's Day, I encourage you to give back in support of the church. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Yeah. You're doing a good job. All right, now we got to be really quiet. And Mama is going to sing a song to you. You ready? In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. Christ, a homeless stranger, so the gospel say, cradled in a manger, in a bed of hay. In the bleak midwinter, stable place sufficed. Mary and her baby, Jesus Christ. Once more child and mother weave their magic spell, touching hearts with wonder words can never tell. In the bleak midwinter, in this world of pain, where our hearts are open, love is born again. Where our hearts are open, love is born again.
Martha Sharp was an organizer. She was a social worker and a mother and a minister's wife. Together with her husband, Waitstill Sharp, a Unitarian minister serving the congregation in Wellesley Hills, Massachusetts, she agreed to travel to Eastern Europe in the winter of 1939 to help people at risk from the rising Nazi regime. Leaving their own 2 young children in the care of relatives, Martha and Waitstill arrived at Norbert Čapek's Unitarian Church in the city of Prague and set up an office where they worked to procure visas, exit papers, money, and travel arrangements for political dissidents to escape from Germany and France to Great Britain, Scandinavia, and America. After 7 months, the Gestapo became aware of their activities, and they returned to the US in July. That fall, as the situation in Europe grew worse, the American Unitarian Association urged Waitstill and Martha to go back and carry on their work. This time they headquartered in Lisbon and again helped dozens of people in imminent danger to flee from the Nazis. For one particularly prominent author, it proved impossible to get passage on a ship bound to America, so Martha gave him her return ticket, and he and Waitstill sailed back the following summer. Martha wasn't ready to go back anyway, because she was organizing her last escape for a group of 27 children. These were children of parents who would never be allowed to leave openly, who wanted to get their children to safety before anything happened to them. Martha painstakingly filled out forms and bribed clerks until all the children had identity papers, exit visas, and tickets, and in December they sailed to New York. Martha bought them all beige berets so that she could keep track of them on the ship. Martha and Waitstill Sharp were later recognized as the second and third Americans to be named righteous among the nations at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial in Israel, as Gentiles who risked their lives to save Jews from Hitler. This recognition came partly because of the testimony of those children who Martha brought to America with her. We are justly proud of the work that Martha and Waitstill did, and we know that part of what made it especially hard was leaving their own 2 children in the care of others and not seeing them for many months. That is a sacrifice worthy of acknowledgement on this Mother's Day. But I am thinking today also of those other mothers, the ones who packed their children's suitcases and sent them off across the ocean with an American they hardly knew, hoping it would be safer for them here, knowing that there was a good chance they might never see each other again. In fact, all the children in Martha's Kindertransport were eventually reunited with some part of their families, but no one could be assured of that at the time. As one witness reminisced later, there's a tendency to think that you can protect your children by holding them close and keeping them under your arms. But in a circumstance such as that war, that instinctive reaction may not be the wise one. The wise and loving practice of parenthood in that situation challenged mothers and fathers to send their children on a path separate from their own, in spite of the pain that it cost them both. To bear that pain for the sake of a child's future is one of the miracles of a mother's heart.
From The Condition of Being Black is One of Mourning by Rankine. In 1955, when Emmett Till's mutilated and bloated body was recovered from the Tallahatchie River and placed for burial in a nailed-shut pine box, his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, demanded his body be transported from Mississippi, where Till had been visiting relatives, to his home in Chicago. Once the Chicago funeral home received the body, she made a decision that would create a new pathway for how to think about a lynched body. She requested an open coffin and allowed photographs to be taken and published of her dead son's disfigured body. Mobley's refusal to keep private grief private allowed a body that meant nothing to the criminal justice system to stand as evidence by placing both herself and her son's corpse in positions of refusal relative to the etiquette of grief. She disidentified with the tradition of the lynched figure left out in public view as a warning to the black community, thereby using the lynching tradition against itself. The spectacle of the black body in her hands publicized the injustice mapped onto her son's corpse. "Let the people see what I see," she said, adding, "I believe that the whole United States is mourning with me."
Rankine continues, "My friend says that years after his birth, whenever her son steps out of their home, her status as a mother of a living human being remains precarious. Added to the natural fears of every parent facing the randomness of life is this other knowledge of the ways in which institutional racism works in our country. I asked another friend what it's like being the mother of a black son. The condition of black life is one of mourning," she said bluntly. For her, mourning lived in real time inside her and her son's reality. At any moment, she might lose her reason for living. Though the white liberal imagination likes to feel temporarily bad about black suffering, there really is no mode of empathy that can replicate the daily strain of knowing that as a black person you can be killed for simply being black. No hands in your pockets, no playing music, no sudden movements, no driving your car, no walking at night, no walking in the day, no turning onto this street, no entering this building, no standing your ground, no standing here, no standing there, no talking back, no playing with toy guns, no living while black."
Like a ship in the harbor, like a mother and child, like a light in the darkness, I'll hold you a while. We'll rock on. I'll cradle you deep and hold you while angels sing you to sleep.
Like a ship in the harbor,
Like a ship in the harbor,
like a mother and child,
like a mother and child,
like a light in the darkness.
like a light in the darkness. I'll hold you a while.
We will rock on the water.
We'll rock on the water.
I'll cradle you deep
I'll cradle you deep
and hold you while angels sing you to sleep.
and hold you while angels sing you to sleep. Like a ship in the harbor, like a mother and child.
They warn you about Mother's Day in seminary. Be careful with Mother's Day, they say. Don't be too sentimental. Don't assume it's all hearts and flowers. It can be ambiguous or painful for some people. There are those of us who expected to be mothers, who hungered to become mothers, and it never happened. It's hard for us. There are those who had children who are now estranged for reasons that you don't understand or understand all too well. It's hard. There are those whose mothers were lost to death or desertion, who have only an absence in the place where a mother should have been. That's hard on Mother's Day. There are mothers whose child died or was removed from them or lost somehow. That is, I would suppose, unbearably hard. There are those whose mothers were damaged or damaging, who needed their children to be something other than you were, who couldn't be the kind of mother you needed. Mother's Day is hard for many of us. And even if the connection is intact and the flowers are sincere and deserved and appreciated, they are nevertheless the product of years of a process that is seldom altogether easy. Even when it works, mothering is hard and risky. When Julia Ward Howe proposed the first Mother's Day in 1870, it was meant above all to be a day of collective mourning, when all the mothers who had lost their sons in the war between North and South would recognize their shared grief and how much they had in common, regardless of which side their sons had fallen on. Howe believed that out of that mutual acknowledgement would arise a shared determination to prevent other mothers from having to face such a tragedy in the future. Her goal was not just to appreciate and applaud mothers, but to harness the fierce power of their love in the service of public justice and international peace. Motherhood begins in a woman's painful labor, and it unfolds in a series of constant demands to balance another person's needs against one's own. When I have been privileged to witness motherhood as a vocation, as a path of spiritual growth, its practice pushes the original dyad of mother and child into an ever greater awareness of the widening web of connections, to become part of that realization of what all mothers want for their children: safety, well-being, happiness, and the pain that arises when they don't find it. The sometimes agonizing lessons of motherhood lead us to the visceral awareness of what we share as human beings who love the vulnerable children that we must send forth into a world where we cannot protect them. This lesson is embedded in our sacred stories. The mother of Moses responding to the cruel injustice of Egyptian law by hiding her baby, and when that was no longer sustainable, setting him out onto the current of the marshy river where something miraculous might happen. Kisa Gotami, learning that the grief of mother bereavement has no medicine, but is part of a universal human plight. Mary, mother of Jesus, cradling the body of her crucified son. The parents of Martha Sharp's Kindertransport, sending their children away from the clutches of murderous Nazi rage, not knowing if they would ever see them again. It is in our mythology, the agony of motherhood, and it is in the headlines of our world today. Sometimes it is the miracle. This past Tuesday, Brian Chavez, who came to the southern border of the United States 3 years ago at the age of 15, seeking to escape the gangs that killed his father and uncles in Michoacan, and was forcibly detained by the Trump administration Border Patrol, was reunited with his mother, Sandra Ortiz, who had been deported to Mexico and gone into hiding. Since he last saw his mother, Chavez has graduated from high school, turned 18, and is now working for an organization seeking to reunite separated families. He hopes to become a nurse. Mother and son reported that seeing and hugging each other feels like the end of a nightmare. Give your mother flowers, of course, and give thanks that the nightmare is not yours. But if you would honor the spirit of Mother's Day, do something to put a stop to what happened to Sandra Ortiz and Brian. Sometimes the nightmare is one that you never wake up from. Ask Nerine Stokes, the mother of Ryan Stokes, or Lori Bay, the mother of Cameron Lamb, or Ratonya McGee, the mother of Terrence Bridges, all mothers of Black sons killed by police officers here in Kansas City. Ask Leslie McSpadden, Michael Brown's mother. You can't ask Larcinia Floyd. She was already 2 years dead when her son George cried out to Mama with his last breath. But every Black mother, every human mother, heard her own name in that appeal. In that moment, motherhood is a hard thing, hard as the concrete streets, heavy as the centuries of not mattering in a society distorted by white supremacy. Ella Baker said it with crystal clarity more than half a century ago. Until the killing of Black men, Black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who are connected to humanity by the umbilical cord of shared motherhood, who know that agonizing vulnerability, cannot rest until the promise of freedom and justice and mercy comes. For until that day, to be a mother means to live and move and have our being in a constant state of low-level dread, our ears forever alert to the call of Mama, I can't breathe, and the frantic powerlessness of Kisa Gotami, who could find no medicine for her dead child. So buy your mother some chocolates or cognac or brunch, whatever makes her smile, by all means. But if you would honor the spirit of Mother's Day, do something to make sure that Nerine Stokes and Ratonya McGee do not need to add more members to their tragic sorority. In fact, here's a thing you can do. Show up for them. This Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning at Ilis Davis Park on the north side of City Hall, there will be a gathering of mothers and those who support them to stand in solidarity with the families of Terrence Bridges and Donnie Sanders, Ryan Stokes, and Cameron Lamb, to bear witness that the death of their beloved sons and brothers and fathers is unacceptable in this community. Stick around for our Zoom social hour in a few moments, and Julia Schaefer-Meyer from More Squared will give us the details. Our culture has long celebrated the modest virtues of motherhood: tenderness, understanding, flexibility, humor, infinite patience. But the truth is that to be a real mother requires enormous courage and resilience, and the ability to embrace one's own pain for the sake of another's opportunity to flourish. It requires the resolve to get up and face the world that murdered your beloved child, and with a gaping hole in your own heart, to demand justice for them and for all the other mothers' children. It requires the steely determination of a Mamie Till Mobley to display her son's disfigured body to a guilty nation. It demands the persistence of the Sandy Hook parents who, after a decade, continue to carry the memory of their dead children from house to house, insisting that we must prevent their anguish from being repeated. Be careful with Mother's Day, they say, and it's true. The sweetness was never meant to be the heart of it. That's a grace note on the top if you happen to be fortunate. Mother's Day, if you're not careful, will call you right into the struggle, into the place of rage and agony where women cradle the bodies of their crucified children. Children who were starved, children who were lynched, children who were shot by mistake or on purpose, children in cages, children who were pinned to the ground and suffocated, children who were their hope and pride and comfort. Mother's Day, if you're not careful, will send you into your own nursery or playroom to watch your own heedless child with anxious eyes and wonder how another mother bears that loss, how any of you bear the thought of it. Mother's Day, if it works as intended, will send you out into the streets to cry aloud for justice, for mercy, for freedom, for peace. It will make you want to bind up the shared suffering of mothers into flaming arrows to pierce the indifference of all who do not know or do not care enough to change the ways of the world to make it safe for our children so that the hearts of mothers might find rest. Mother's Day, if it works as intended, will make you look with new eyes at your own mother and wonder not just about the patience with which she guided your baby steps and fumbling growth, but also about the heart-stopping risk of sending you out into the harsh inequities of this world. It should make you wonder whether the best tribute is not bubble bath or diamond jewelry, but a community in which no mother needs to send her child off to war or teach them to abase themselves before privilege for the sake of survival, or gamble the odds between losing them and protecting them, or bury their bullet-shattered, suffocated bodies. Thank heaven for mothers, yes, for their cookies and tortillas and fried chicken, for their Band-Aid kisses and bedtime stories and school play costumes, for their laps and their laughter and their listening ears, for their funny sayings and their life lessons and the memories they cherish for us. On Mother's Day, thanks for all of that, but also thanks for their rage and their grief and their relentless demand that their children, all children, deserve a better world than the one we have made for them. Thanks for their courage and their solidarity and their witness that the heartbreak they have known can and must be transformed into change. That fierce, unflinching love is a sacred thing. May it summon us all to our better selves, which is what they have been wanting for us all along. Unto us our children are given as an encouragement of hope and strength. What a tragedy it would be if people were never to be better than we are, if the promise of the human venture were to be fastened and limited in us. Rather, let this be the promise we hold, that our labor prepares a world of healing, restoration, and new life for the generations that shall come after. For unto us children are born, and unto our human heritage new chances given, generation after generation.
Like a ship in the harbor, like a mother and child, like a light in the darkness, I'll hold you a while. We'll rock on the water, I'll cradle you and hold you while angels sing you to sleep.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For these we carry in our minds and hearts until the time shall come when we will be together again. Thank you for being with us this morning to share this exploration of the spirit of Mother's Day. Thanks also to Mark Gibbons and Dylan Young for filling in for Anthony Edwards, who is recovering nicely after his surgery went well on Friday. We invite you to join us now for informal conversation and fellowship in our community Zoom room, where Julia Schaefer-Meyer from Moore Squared will tell us more about the event on Tuesday morning. You can find the Zoom link in the chat here or at our All Souls website homepage. We hope you will plan to join us next week for some wise reflections on the meaning of covenant from John Maher, followed by our annual congregational meeting. Until then, please, everyone, get your vaccination and help others do the same. Take care, stay safe, and be well this week.